Hey everybody, Darby here with GenAI University, tuning in for today's live show of GenAIU Live, the AI Implementation Power Hour, where we're going to be diving into hands-on, real-time build-outs to leverage AI in our businesses, starting with our premiere episode today of building out your AI right-hand brain, your own custom GPT in ChatGPT that is trained on all your business information, your knowledge, your context, your frameworks so that you can leverage ChatGPT to its fullest potential, unlock more time, and make more money in our businesses by leveraging these AI tools inside of our own workflows. We're going to be joined today by members of our community who are going to be tuning in live. We're going to be walking through an actual demonstration of building out a new GPT with all of the relevant business context and information for one of my own businesses and showing you step by step how you can go ahead and implement this to yourself. I was organizing a lot of the content here before we went live, which is really the first fundamental thing that you need to do when going through this process. Actually have your content organized, or else you're going to be lacking in the context that you're giving ChatGPT or any large language model for that matter. And the outputs will not be as ideal as you may hope they would be. Let's go ahead and kick things off. We got an hour for this show, and those that join live get a chance to ask questions and engage, and those who get to watch the replays get to watch the replays and then ask questions inside of the community. So make sure you guys are joined inside of our new school community, jennyIU.com/school is where you can go ahead and join. Super excited about our move. I am hearing positive feedback from other members of our community as well. And ultimately, the goal is to simplify how we are not just creating content inside the community, but how we're delivering it, how we're creating a space where other founders, other entrepreneurs, other builders can connect with each other and share what we are doing in the world. And this episode is building your AI right hand, a custom GPT that works like you, that works with you inside of ChatGPT. You may have heard the term custom GPT thrown around. You may have built your own yourself, or you may have not. You may have never built a custom GPT for yourself. Custom GPT inside of ChatGPT means that we're going to be training with our own business information, our own context, and our own specific topic related knowledge, what we want that version of ChatGPT to do and be able to reference it so that you can tap into it again and again. And there's definitely levels to this at which you can get more and more advanced, which over time in this workshop series, we will get a bit more advanced on that note. But there's also a level of simplicity to here that I think a lot of people may get overwhelmed in thinking like, I need to be more technical to do this. I need to have all of these like bells and whistles and everything. And I'm going to show you today how you can the core pieces that I would recommend you use just to get started inside of this 1 hour sprint that you can start to leverage a chat GPT instance, a custom GPT for yourself, trained on your own business context and information, or for a client that you're working with, so that you can just start to use ChatGPT and get more on brand, consistent quality outputs as opposed to having to retrain a new chat thread every single time you go in to start to use ChatGPT and bring all this information in. So we're going to be, I'm just calling this like your own right hand GPT. So you may hear people calling it your business brain. You may hear people calling it a bunch of other fancy names, whatever. It's what marketers do. We got to name everything and make it sound like it's our own. At the end of the day, what I'm going to show you here that you can walk away with and do and implement yourself as an action item during this call, or at least after if you have all your information on it, is build a simple GPT that understands your business, your brand voice, and your goals so that you can start to use it again and again and again, and then build on it from there. By the end of the session, you're going to have a fully trained GPT inside ChatGPT. I believe you'll need a Plus account in order to do this and start to build these out. It's going to act like your daily AI teammate. It's going to be helping you brainstorm, write, plan, create, automate certain aspects of your business, and using this GPT and the knowledge that we've trained it as a source of truth. So we're going to be talking about how to set up a custom GPT inside of ChatGPT. We're going to be talking about training it on your business info, frameworks, and tone. We're going to be turning it into a reliable right-hand assistant that is going to think like you. When I say think like you, it's going to think like with you. It's going to understand the knowledge that we're giving it so that it is referencing that in how it's producing outputs. AI is is a tool. It's a large language model, and the more focused, specific information you can give it about you, your business, and the goals that you are looking to achieve, the better it's going to be at helping you achieve those goals. If you don't give it any context, any direction, any specific information about your business, you're going to get generic AI content out, and that's just how these tools work. So we're going to walk away with a custom GPT built for your business, steps on using it daily and how to build from it, and then a repeatable framework to train future chat GPTs, which is literally just going to be walking through this type of process that I'm showing with you, gathering information and adding it in. So there was prerequisite work for those that are inside the community that are getting access to these calls live, but also pre-work that I would recommend anybody here doing before you go and get started with building a custom GPT is gathering all your business information in your context. This might take you an hour. This might take you a day. This might take you a week. You might have teammates that have access to all this information, but it's in 15 different Google Drive folders. Just telling you what I've seen. If you don't have all this information organized in a clear, easy to access way yourself or with your team, why would you expect AI to be a magic bullet to just suddenly be able to understand where all this information is being pulled from? It's not going to. It's up to you as the human in the loop, as the operator behind these machines to gather this information, identify the most relevant context that you want the AI to understand, and then organize it, put it in one simple clear folder, and then use that as your starting point that you can continue to build from. And whether you're doing this for yourself, whether you're doing this for a client, whether you're doing this for just an experiment to just start to learn how to use these AI tools, ultimately at the end of the day, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Again, final thumbs up here, Kevin. You can see my blank document. So what I want to just quickly illustrate before we dig in is that we were talking about ChatGPT right here as the central kind of like knowledge point. You are going to be right here, right? And depending on how you're looking at this and depending on if I should driven, let's just say I'm looking at myself through the back and this is my right hand and that's ChatGPT. So I'm here, I got my phone in my hand, I'm operating ChatGPT. It's like literally my right hand. And I'm using voice notes to communicate with it. I'm texting with it. I'm talking back and forth. I'm brainstorming. I'm having it go and research. But what you may have found when you're working with ChatGPT just by itself is that it knows like all this information. Super general. Okay. That's an important word. It's a large language model, knows a lot of general information, and that causes its information to get like very broad and not super focused. But when we're talking about your business, your goals, the outcomes that you're looking to build and leverage AI for, we need to get it to be more specific. And so it's your job as the human operator to go and gather information, right? Think about you have to go to the library and you have to go and find all this information that you want to ultimately learn from yourself, but also teach your AI assistant. This is all the stuff I want you to know. Maybe you have a bunch of really good books that you follow. Maybe you follow Traction and the EOS operating system in your business. That's great. And ChatGPT might have an understanding of what all that stuff is, but did you know that you can also give custom GPT's book manuscripts that will allow it to actually follow those frameworks to a more exact process? Whether, and that's just one book example because I follow the EOS for how we run our weeks and operating system. But there's like tons of different books, tons of different processes, tons of different frameworks, and tons of different instructional workflows and things that you've probably already built in your own business or that your clients have already built. And so it's your job as a human operator to go and gather this information. It might be in Google, it might be in Notion, it might be it in a library somewhere. It might be something that you need to create. You might need to put together. And if you follow what we do and teach here, building your own like buyer's brief is a great starting point, which is what we're going to walk through for the foundational content and knowledge. But once you gather all of this key info, then we're going to take this ChatGPT instance right here, and I'm going to say custom. Okay. I don't even know if I spelled custom right. I'm going to say custom GPT instance, right? And this is where we're going to jump in and say, ChatGPT, you're nice, but you're super general for me. But now I want to build a custom GPT that's going to reference all of this key information here. And then this is going to end up being a right-hand man that's not just a first-time employee that is basically like someone that just showed up to your organization. You didn't give them any information, any context, any know-how, or any frameworks that you use in your business. You just said, "Hey, you're hired on here. You're my right-hand assistant. Go." And what's a human going to say in that instance? Okay, you can't expect me to like actually do a good job if you're not going to give me the tools and the resources and the information and the direction that you need me to go. Like AI is no different. It's just going to act like it knows what it's doing, and then it's going to go really fast. And you're going to be like, what? Like, how did you end up in that direction? That's not what I wanted you to do. No, what we're going to do is then we're going to take this custom GPT and we're going to build it down here for your custom right hand. And there you go. That's where we're going to end up with having a custom right hand GPT built with all of this information that's feeding into it. And then you're going to be able to update all of that information. So that is where we're heading. You can tell I went to art school, and now it's time for the rubber to meet the road. And I wanted to lay that groundwork so you understood where we are heading and what we will need to actually get there in a way that's going to actually be useful. So if I'm speaking gibberish, please speak up in the comments. Let me know if I need to slow it down and walk through something else if it's not coming across. If it sounds good, we're going to keep this train rolling, keep it inside of an hour so that you guys can get back on to doing the things that you need to do. And if you're watching this right now, like I think yesterday, 5.1 wasn't a thing, and then it became a thing. I don't really know exactly what 5 is right now. It's another update from ChatGPT. Maybe it gives you some more stuff to be able to do. We're not going to get into that just yet. I haven't had time to dig into the newest 5.1 update. But what I have had time to do is you can see stuff right here like search company knowledge. And that'll allow you inside of your main ChatGPT instance to tap into things like email, Google Drive, GitHub, Box, Google Calendar. That stuff's all great and all. And we're gonna this is stuff that you can continue to connect and link up your accounts with ChatGPT to do that. But we're going to talk about custom GPTs first and foremost, because knowing how to train and get a custom GPT made to act as your right-hand teammate can be applied to not just using it inside of ChatGPT, but really foundational success with all chats, all LLMs. So on the left-hand side of my ChatGPT account, I'm going to select Explore under GPTs. This is where it is right now. Depending on when you're watching this video, it may be somewhere else around here. What I want to find ultimately, so you can see a bunch of different custom GPTs that I've made, some of these for different clients, some of these for internal purposes. The Marcus Mentalist, one of our more popular free GPTs that we've made, is trained on our Buyer's Brief book. But I want to start with going to Explore. Once I select Explore, it's going to give me this kind of like popular at GenAI University. You can see a bunch of GPTs we've made. You can search GPTs, but the thing we want to look for right now is create in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm going to go up and click create to create my custom GPT. And this is going to be the interface we're going to spend the most time in right now. We have a configure interface, which is like a blank slate. Okay, I can configure, but what am I configuring? You can give it a name, you can give it a description. It's for helping you understand what does this GPT do or anybody else on your team. And then we have instructions. Instructions come in the form of prompts, just very simple, direct instructions to an AI system. We also refer to these in some cases as recipes if they are a little bit more comprehensive, if there's multiple levels and layers to like a series of prompts that we string together. This recipe we provide a little bit more of a direct output. You can also create your own frameworks and place them in here as instructions so that the GPT executes that. So, for example, a popular framework that people in our community have been using for years was Alex Ramosey's $100 million offer framework. Right? It has, you start here, and he has all these different sections that he broke down in his book. We've created a recipe that's inside of our library that you can access that's based on that book. But basically, it's all of the different instructions that are inside of that book that help you with creating the outputs that you want to create your $100 million offer, right? You can do the same thing with just use your imagination, almost like any business book that has, this is my framework for doing X, Y, or Z. You could turn almost any of those frameworks into a set of instructions that you can train a GPT to do to follow along with. And so you can start with a blank slate, but this can be overwhelming if this is your first time getting in and like, where do I even start from here? Then I want you to turn your attention to the create section. We're not going to get into testing just yet. I want to get into the create section. I'll help you build a new GPT. Now, this is where you can actually work with ChatGPT to helping you with uncovering what you actually want to make. And you can also provide it information here that can help it understand exactly what you want to make. And so the next screen I'm going to share in this other tab was the super simple knowledge base that I put together leading up to this workshop that we're going to train for the next evolution of a custom GPT for my side hustle company because we are expanding our live events. I have frameworks that have already been working to get 50 to 100 plus people registered for some of these events here in town. And we are going to be opening up a school community and we're going to be hosting and doing different things now that we weren't doing 2 years ago that warrant a new updated set of instructions. And so the key pieces of information that I'm going to be providing ChatGPT here, and this will look different depending on you, your business, what you're doing, and what you're building. But the key pieces of information that I'm going to be bringing in that I've already spent the time to put together are one, I have a brand style guidebook. A brand guide just gives color, tone, images, super basic stuff. You don't need to have it in a super pretty PDF, but having the hex codes, the colors, and all that sort of stuff is helpful so that at least you can provide that direction. If you use ChatGPT to generate images for you, it'll follow that style guide. I'm going to be giving it a framework snapshot of what a successful event page looks like. This is going to be my framework that I'm training it on. I say, hey, I want to create an event for this and this at this time, this date for Illuma. It's going to be able to reference this structure and just rewrite the copy in a way that's going to be conducive to that event that I'm going to be hosting. I'm giving it our game instructions because anytime I want to write a pitch about how the game works, the pitch itself might look differently to different target markets, different people that I'm talking to with, but the fundamentals of the game are going to remain the same. And so I'm just giving it these instructions as context. And then the last and most important piece to all of this is going to be our buyer's brief. Another terminology for this is strategic brief, creative brief. Ultimately, what is the source of truth as a knowledge point that will outline what your product or service is? What are the segments of the market that you serve with that product or service? Like, what's the general niche that you are servicing? And what is the context around this at a really high level? When you go through a buyer's brief book and the Market Sauce 9000 recipe, you could use ChatGPT or Claude to helping you with executing and building one of these out, like literally top to bottom. You could take that entire recipe and do it. I was doing it with Claude even just earlier today. It's absolutely insane how much more context and how much better the outputs are getting from these AIs from a recipe that we made 3 years ago. I think at this point was when we started putting that book together. The point is that if you go through that process to fill out your product, your segment, your niche, your context at a high level, and then work with AI to help, it can help you create this. Of course, there's like ways that you could like get these put together, like by hiring people to do it for you, working with brands, creative agencies, marketing agencies. The point of having a creative brief is so that you can have one document that you send to anybody so that everybody can get on the same page with who you are, who you serve, how you do it, what you do it differently. And if you don't have one of these and you're going to either repeat yourself a ton throughout the process or you're not going to be clear on what your marketing goals and initiatives are going to be because it's not all out on paper. But ultimately, this is what you want to be giving also to a GPT so that it understands those same things. Again, if you can't just expect people to be able to read your mind and know all of this stuff out the gate. And so the way that we structure these and create them is to at least have a blueprint and a high level. And then at the very minimum, having a creative brief that walks through the promise your brand's going to deliver, the problem, the solution, and the different audience segments. And this page ended up being 96 pages after all was said and done with it. Like I was reading this actively as it was producing the outputs. And the reason that I was reading it, especially at the beginning, was like, hey, is it producing actual good information and context? It was. I was like, this is really good stuff. So I let AI keep rolling. But now I have this entire go-to-market strategy plan that now it's time to execute. And now I need to go and start to begin to build this out. And I'm not going to, it would take the entire hour for me to walk through every single section of it with you guys. But you see all of these different sections inside of this recipe include a branded style guide. They include the imagery style, how I'm going to create and use this image, include the brand tone, because you want to have your brand personality incorporated into your GPT so that it understands how you want to come across when you're creating social media content, writing emails, doing anything like that. And so all of this was created in Claude prior to putting it in this document that I'm now putting into ChatGPT. Your document could be as simple as a 5-page document that just keeps that super high level. And then what's your brand tone, what's your style, and like what's your vibe, and giving it context and outputs here. And this is a living document, so it's something that I'm going to continue to update. But that is the core of the buyer's brief. We have our core like visual style guide I'm going to give it. We have a framework for how we put on events and invite people to events and market events. And then we have the rules for the game that will be relevant to anybody that I'm pitching this at as like a corporate workshop, which we are doing as well. So all of that said, this is inside of a Google document. I need to tell ChatGPT now, what do I actually want to make here? So what I'm going to do, and like all this work is stuff you should do before like you go and start to make a GPT. So spend an hour, spend a day, spend a week putting this content together, gathering your brand information, your style, your tone of voice, or have your team do it, right? But have all the information that you would give anybody that's coming into your business that needs to know, what do you guys do? Who do you serve? Like all of this stuff. Now we're going to train this GPT to know all of this stuff by asking it anything. But before we ask it anything, I'm going to give it, or if it's going to let me, I want to let me give it files. Okay. The file thing isn't opening, so I'm just going to drag and drop them here. So what I'm doing right now, I'm giving it all of these files as context. I'm going to say, I'm just going to use it like verbatim because like you don't, as long as you're specific with it, it'll use this context as a starting point, create a prompt from it, and then we'll make sure the GPT is actually set up to understand all this info. I want to create my very own AI right hand, a custom GPT that understands my side hustle entertainment business with my brand and my goals. Okay. Something wrong, of course. See, like we wait till we do a live workshop for this stuff to happen. I don't know why that would happen, but of course, this is how it's going to happen. Okay, but interesting enough, right? Like this is going to happen, guys. Like you may AI is going to AI, tech breaks all the time with this stuff. It's super experimental. So notice I gave it that prompt. I don't know where it went over here, but it immediately took that information and went on my configure section and added it to the knowledge base. That's where this stuff is going to end up anyways. I was just trying to seed it that information to help with the starter prompt for the instructions. Okay, let's continue where we left off. I might have broken it because one of the documents had 96 pages in it. So your question, Heather, if you want to expand on what you're saying by that, just so I understand the context. So I'm going to give it more context right here and say, I'm just going to use my voice to text. I'm creating an AI right-hand assistant that understands all of my company's information and context and can work with me as a collaborative content planning, writing, brainstorming, and assistant to help me with creating material for our marketing, sales, and operations of this company. I see the question. It's good to see what to do when it gives an error message. Usually I just like refresh the page and see what it does. If it gives me an error message like that, sometimes these tools like will tap out and be like not working for an hour. If that's the case, then I'll just come back later. Sometimes it's as simple as just refreshing the page and like restarting a new GPT and going back through there. So little word salad. It's a powerful vision. Like ChatGPT is just going to tell you every one of your ideas is so great. So what it needs for me now. The most important part about these GPTs, especially in this part of building it out, is it's going to collaboratively work with you on what it needs from me to help with setting up the GPT. So if this is your first time going through this process, just follow along with the prompts. This thing is literally designed to help you building it using its AI frameworks and instructions to do. The AI's name is like I don't know, Side Hustle Sally. We'll just call it that. This is my this is my AI assistant that has a friendly, collaborative, cooperative personality. They're creative and they understand our brand and information to helping with us creating content. I've given you the knowledge base and content and information like my brand voice, my company, the game instructions, and the type of events that we host. And the primary focus of this will be for like helping us with our marketing research and then sales outreach, as well as event creation and communications so that we can put on really magical experiential events. And the tone of voice and the style. See, I got this information here, but I also have this already built out in my brand AI brand voice. I just happen to already be scrolled here, which is cool down inside of the buyer's brief. This is at the end of the strategic brief. This is okay, what's your brand voice, your tone, your style? So I'm just going to copy this. If Side Hustle were a person, they were a charismatic friend who shows up to the party with a game no one's heard of and somehow it becomes the highlight of the night. And so it's like writing out how the brand voice and tone. Again, I was already reviewing this before we got on this call and I was like, this stuff is all solid. So I'm going to give it this information now so that it now understands and then I'm going to give it back. I'm going to throw the conversation back to my GPT builder in here. And so now here's how I'm going to structure it. Structure a side hustle Sally, friendly, collaborative, creative, a charismatic connector who mixes entrepreneur smarts and playful curiosity, confidence, warmth, never stiff or corporate. Right. And so this is the tone and the way that the GPT is going to be influencing the content that it's creating, the knowledge, brand voice, events formats, internal systems, marketing, sales, ops, help generate the content that's aligned, tone of voice, warm, welcoming, playful, inventive, confident, visionary. And so, as you're going through this process yourself, make sure that this is how you would want to have your content be communicated with the world, whether it's social media, whether it's email. Like, if this was coming back to me and it was like, yeah, Side Hustle Sally is like super corporate. She's super direct. She's very authoritative. She's very like she always has to have the right answer all the time. She doesn't listen to anybody else. She's very like abrasive. I'd be like, I'm firing her right now because she doesn't belong on this team. Right. And so just think about how you would want your information and your own brand to be received. And like maybe that works for a certain type of business, right? Like that type of style and communication works for different environments. It doesn't work for like an entrepreneur entertainment comedy show type of event business. So this is all good. Make if this is wrong, if this is way off base, provide additional extra prompts that help it steer in a better direction. Because now it says before I finalize the behavior, would you like her to also generate and refine marketing research and trend insights, analyzing audience psychographics, spotting event trends, summarizing competitor activity? That's actually a really good idea. So I'm going to say, yes, that's great. I want you to make sure that she can also do all of those things. So let's go ahead and lock it in and configure the full configuration. So now it's updating the GPT. This may take a minute. That information is going into the configure section. So next thing I'll do, unless there's another thing that it's asking for here, Side Hustle Sally is configured, your creative right hand, ready to brainstorm, profile image. Yeah, sure. So let's make one on our side hustle green and a silhouette of Sally. Let's see how on point it can be with this green. I've already given it the exact color vibe and stuff. This isn't something I would get hung up on the profile picture. It's just going to make something that's more easily identifiable. We could try it again. I'm not even going to worry about it right now. So now, actually, you know what? I will worry about it because I don't want you guys to not know how to make a picture because it can actually help it stand out. And I don't like looking at a little box. So I am going to worry about it. I take that back. So the last thing I'm going to do before we start testing Side Hustle Sally out, and Side Hustle Sally is, I don't even know what we want to call. call it? The brand mascot for this brand in particular is like a literal unicorn entrepreneur named Richard Rockefeller. And so I'm in Canva and I'm just pulling out an image. I'm going to upload a photo. So Rich Rock is now Sally with a green background. So I literally just had an icon and then I just uploaded that right here. So now you can see I have that, right? And I could easily change the name from Sally to Sam if I wanted to. It's whatever, right? But now we have side hustle. All of this was blank before. If you guys remember getting into here, this was all completely blank. So I used the create section to help me with configuring this with my goals. So I'm using AI to help me with creating the instructional prompts. It has Side Hustle Sally is a collaborative AI assistant designed to work closely with the user, creative strategist, content planner, operations partner, understands the company. So personality is warm, charismatic. It's like embodying the brand voice, giving it the archetypes, the mission to communicate effectively. Her brand adapts by style. And so it's got this whole section right here of instructions for how it can operate. It also created conversation starters. And so these can all be like kind of starter prompts that would help me plan the next event with Side Hustle. If I click that, now Side Hustle Sally's thinking on the right side, but keep in mind knowledge base, game instructions, brand guide, event framework, and then the creative brief with our 3.0 knowledge base in here. And this has a ton of information in it. You could start with a simple 5 or 10 page brief that is just like all the basic information that you need somebody to know about your business, right? Very valuable document to have, regardless of if you're building a GPT or not. But now we see if I were to go into a regular ChatGPT thread and start to create this information, I would have to literally come in, copy and paste this, copy and paste all of my knowledge in, and then train that ChatGPT instance in that one thread specifically on what I'm doing right here. Okay, so we see all this information. We can upload more files. This is new, actually. I haven't seen this before. Recommended model. This might not be like, this might have been out for a little bit. I just haven't seen this before. So now there's no model recommended. Users will use any model they prefer, or I could give it access to one of these models and then test it, which I would highly encourage with anything that we're doing here is test it, see how the output's going. You might find that GPT-4o, if you guys remember, that was like the main model, and then OpenAI came out with GPT-5 and like people started losing their minds because it was responding differently. It wasn't like being as like friendly. It was like being it was operating differently. And some people really liked how ChatGPT 4o would work and write and interact with them. But then other people were like, I really love 5 because it takes longer to think and it does this thing. And so now I can either set it to no model recommended, which means a user will be able to change that, which means me as the user, as the person that's going to be operating this GPT, would have more control, or I could select one of these other models and run with it. So I'm gonna show you how you would explore that right now by clicking create. I'm gonna update it. It's gonna take a second for it to actually create. And if you have other people on your team that are inside of your ChatGPT account, you can set this to be invite only. You can share this so that anybody like at GenAI University can use it, anyone just with a link, or just anyone with a link, or even upload it to the GPT store. That's not the purpose of this for me. This is an internal tool that I'm going to be using myself. So I'm just saving it, or let me do an update. And so now up to this point, I started with a blank custom GPT configuration. And I added all of my knowledge, and then I added instructions as to what I wanted it to build. ChatGPT helped me with building those instructions, and now I have a standalone like right hand like assistant that like its brain is its knowledge base, and I just fed it a few key pieces of information about our business. And now I'm going to say, and so before we dive into some demonstration, the model selection thing is really critical, where I think a lot of people just aren't aware that this is like actually how you can use ChatGPT If you go up to the GPT name, it says 5.1. If I want to do 5.1, I can keep it there. But you might find that if I like using like thinking if I'm giving it like a harder like question or problem to solve or something like that, or maybe instant is like more automatic, but it's not going as in depth through like how should I be answering this? Or pro is like research grade intelligence. And then you go to legacy models, there's so much here. I haven't experimented with 5.1 at all. It looks like the difference here is like it does auto, instant, or thinking. But then if you really like the thinking or you really liked how 4.0 or 4.1 like worked for your specific use case, again, test it out, experiment with it. I'm not going to be able to answer this question for you right now. I would say just see which one of these like actually produces the outputs that you want. I'm just going to test it out right here and say, so we're looking at booking a few events in Q1 for comedy shows that are going to be related to South by Southwest and leading up to that event at some venues downtown. And so just with that level of context, I'm going to say, hey, I'm looking to create an event for our Luma page that is going to be for an upcoming show on January 31st that we can host in downtown Austin, live comedy show from 7 to 10, doors at 7, show starts at 8, networking, hanging out after the show. Go ahead and create all the assets for this event that we can put on Luma, and then all the social media content that we're going to need. Pointing back to this again is that like I'm not having to now go and gather all of my context, all of my knowledge, all of my prompting, all of doing this sort of thing. It's searching my knowledge base. It knows all this information right now. And it knows, look at that. I didn't say anything about school, but it knows that we have a school community. And so now my assistant was like, oh, yeah, by the way, that's a good idea, but we should probably make something for the school community too, since that's where the community is going to be hosted at. That's a great idea. I'm really glad that I thought you to think for me whenever I just have big ideas and maybe I'm not thinking everything completely through. It's referencing this information I've given it to now Side Hustle Live event, mashup, event details, right? I'm going to delete some of these emojis. Maybe I want to go back into the custom instructions and say, hey, never ever use emojis if I really don't like emojis. So tickets, boom, heads up. And so now I have all this content that we can use as a start and a build and building it out from, right? And so this is like version one of what this GPT can ultimately end up doing that I'm going to want to continue to test and refine and make sure that it's all going to look good. Now, what happens when I like do want to make an update to this? Because hey, my assistant did this thing, and I realized that I need to train them a little bit more so that they don't do that thing or that they know this thing for the next one. So I'm going to go here, my upper left-hand corner. I'm going to select the drop down again. I'm going to click Edit GPT. So maybe I don't like Side Hustle Sally because it's signing off everything as Sally. And I'm like, actually, this is going to be coming from me. Okay. So it's just Side Hustle Darby. Okay. So I'm just going to search. I'm going to change it, all the names, change it to Darby, Darby. Okay, cool. So we're good there. And I'm going to say a few things. Also, important instructions for every single output you create to never ever use emojis and to never ever use M dashes and to make sure that before you're putting any outputs that you are reviewing yourself and don't use emojis or M dashes. Okay. So I just gave it another blurb of instruction. Hopefully it follows those instructions. I just renamed it to be Side Hustle Darby instead of Side Hustle Sally. It's a good point, Kim, saying like the way the mind works, it's like a mirror. And I think that's a way I've seen AI also described and like often with working with these, that it is like a mirror. So the more that you can give it how you think, how you operate, how you approach problems, it will help be that assistant that can help work with that way. And that's probably an entire episode of just going deeper on like the mirror side of AI and like how to know when to maybe step away from it because it's reflecting a lot of stuff back that you maybe gave it too much context or not enough, or it's being a little too happy go lucky about every single idea that you come out. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Oh, I got you. Okay, cool. Yeah. I have heard other people, Kim, talk about how like AI is like a mirror reflecting back like the stuff that you're thinking too. And so that's just, I think, something for a good point to be aware of is that as you start to work with these and build out these GPTs, like if you do it effectively, like it should start to solve and handle and address problems and situations in a way that you might approach it. But again, if you have a framework for how you approach problem solving, if you have a framework for how you would approach training a new employee with an SOP, right? Giving the GPT that type of information is going to be fundamentally like of the most importance so that it helps like with working through those same scenarios that you would put into it. And so what I'm gonna do now is like test number two for this GPT. We just changed the name of it. We just said no emojis, no M dashes. I just went and copied the exact same prompt that I gave it from the other GPT testing so we can see is Side Hustle Darby GPT like actually following along with this information with the new instructions that I gave it. Look at that. Zero emojis. It's a simple demonstration, but if you can see like the simplicity and like the instructions and just a few lines that you can give it to be able to influence this type of outputs, think about, do you have any signature things that you always sign off an email with? For me, it's keep common AI on. If I wanted to include that in every single, hey, every time that we reach out to a sponsor, I want you to say, hey, keep calm and side hustle on, Darby, as my signature sign off. I would want to add that blurb into the instructions so that it understood how to write, how to flow, how to model how I would communicate certain things. And so we see here, this one clearly has zero emojis. It's coming up with all this information. Cool. And we say, cool. Do deep research on a few like sponsors that we could reach out to in the next few weeks to see if they want to collaborate with us on this event. Think super long and hard about it, and then find the sponsors, the websites, the contact information, any LinkedIn information, specific web pages where I can reach out and either call them or send them an email. Go, and it's going to go off and do this type of stuff, right? So I still need to direct it with what I'm going to need it to do, but ultimately, like all of these instructions that we've now created right here, now we can continue to build and modify and expand upon it. And there are still going to be some limitations if you're just creating a custom GPT just in here that you may be able to unlock with a little bit more advanced stuff on the back end that we don't have time to get into specifically today. Connecting it with what's a good example here? Like I've seen people that have connected it with a Notion database or another sort of database that they can just have it be anytime that database is uploaded, then you can go and interact with that directly. One thing I'm noticing is missing with these GPTs, and I don't know if this is a thing that ChatGPT is going away from, is I'm not able to like directly connect this GPT, custom GPT. At least I didn't see a super easy way to do it with like my HubSpot account through MCP, Model Context Protocol, which is a way that you can get these AI tools to communicate like APIs to get information and pass it back and forth. But I do know that HubSpot recently came out with a way to like directly connect and integrate with your ChatGPT account. So that there may be another instance and a way to work around that inside of ChatGPT that we didn't cover here, just it with this basic setup. But the foundations are set. We have the knowledge base. We have the instructions. It's going and doing this work. I've been talking for what, a couple minutes now. You guys can see it right here. It is going through like this process of doing research for me, right? It's finding things in Capital Factory. CreateScape co-working seems like a match. So I could sit here and follow along with it, or I can do this and have this running on one screen while I'm doing something else. And instead of me spending 30 minutes or an hour or two to go out and like manually go and pull all these things together, now anytime I'm running a side hustle event, I could just pop this GPT up and open, and I can get the event and all the assets and all the content and everything that I would need to get that event set up and functional in a fraction of the time that it would take me to do it any other way. And to me, that's the right hand that I need for this particular project because it is a side hustle. But anytime we do an event, it builds a lot of new connections and our community here in Austin and leads to more people discovering Gen AI University. But I don't necessarily have 20 hours a week to just put together all the content and assets and outreach for these events. So using ChatGPT and AI to helping with streamlining that process a little bit more. Hope you found that helpful and useful. The action items from today's call are going to be to one, gather all of your knowledge and your information and your company context, brand voice, tone, style guide, go get the buyer's brief, follow the market sauce. In the buyer's brief book and the market sauce 9,000 recipe, you can find available in our foundation training for free inside of our community on school, geneiu.com/school to get started there. Just get started with that as a foundation, get a creator brief together and use that plus your other company information to build your own GPT. If anything, just building a super simple one like I did today in 1 hour is all you do. That skill set will be able to get built upon anytime you want to build a more advanced GPT or a more advanced like AI, like assistant type of system, because you've already gathered all the information. You've already created the baseline instructional prompt that will allow you to just copy and paste that and update it and upgrade it as you need to. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're here to save a bunch of time in doing that and building this stuff ourselves so that your right hand can do a lot of this work for you while you can focus on more higher level stuff and things that have the most leverage. And so you can see, took a few minutes, identified a bunch of initial sponsors, give me a bunch of websites, that sort of thing. And so I have a great starting point now to build from and go and executing on this event. And you can go and take this entire workflow today and put it into action for yourself. Any questions? I see some of the comments coming through right now. Confirmed it did it right. Time to build a virtual team. Yeah, you could have 10 different GPTs that all have hyper specific outcomes for it. This is, I think, everybody should have at least one version of a GPT that just understands this type of stuff with it. And then let's just say another example that I have found useful for clients that we've worked with is, hey, here's like my top 10 performing YouTube videos that we've used scripts to modify a framework out. How do we like create a GPT that can help with writing better like scripts following this format? That's a great question. That's a great use case. If they're already on YouTube, you can go copy all of those transcripts, paste them inside of documents, upload those documents to ChatGPT or Claude, ask it, hey, I need to create a framework, identify the framework that models success based on these transcripts, and then create like a prompt that will help me with writing an outline for a script based on that. And it'll do it. And then you can take that outline and that framework and format, and then you could upload that to a content script writing GPT that anytime you want to write a YouTube video script following your format or other popular formats that you want to follow an outline and a structure, you can do that. Like I would follow the exact same sort of approach, but just with a little bit of that extra like context for guidance. Cool. Checking this out. Thank you, Eric. Phenomenal training today. Thank you so much for that. Glad you enjoyed it. Heather, thank you. Kevin says so much better than building a project. Yeah, like projects have their own place for certain things, certainly, but there are differences in here. And I think like fundamentally when working with large language models, you just have to understand the context, and people call it context engineering now. Guys, we've been doing this for 4+ years. You just need the right information that you would teach a human about your stuff, and organizing that in first place is surprisingly the place where a lot of people try to skip over and then come into AI and be like, why is it so generic? You're not giving it the information it needs to even know from the first place. So spend the time to get your knowledge base organized first. Add in one solid framework that you would already be using day to day. You can easily add that in like we did with our events page, and get your GPT made. Collaborate with the custom GPT builder, get one of those started and set up. And of course, like I said, there's levels to this. There's different layers that you can go down and down the rabbit hole. But if you don't have a good context space and a good foundation to start, there's no point in going 2 or 3 levels beyond this, because it's just going to waste your time. And I don't want that for you. It's not going to be good for anybody, because you're just going to waste a bunch of time and energy and resources that could have been reduced if you just spend the time putting your knowledge base together. Thank you all for tuning in with us here live on today's kickoff show for the AI Implementation Power Hour. It's great to see you all here live and those tuning in with us inside of the community for the replay. Replays will be available inside of our classroom, inside of school. Make sure you're subscribed to us on school, at least for free to get access to our foundation training and join our community and get up to date with our future shows. So all that said, appreciate you all. Keep coming AI on. I'll see you on the other side. Cheers.